we want to define a couple of opportunities we see, and that could be, let's say somebody like Bob, probably his problem is marketing related, right? But how could we have multiple opportunities related to marketing? Different age groups, yeah. Right? So you could define an opportunity of a specific area that you're going to market to. You could define it in, an opportunity to reach out and create and have social media marketing, job creation. Exactly. So when we're thinking design thinking, those are actually two really good ones. So we can all see an opportunity or a problem, but solve it in a different way. So those are good ways to say, okay, there's a marketing problem, but our opportunity is we're going to exploit this new market, or our opportunity is that we're going to create jobs for our market. So for sure, you can define the opportunity and solve it in different ways. So when you come to your client on Monday or Tuesday, I want you thinking about, as a group, kind of some ideas of what you see as opportunities so you can start to discuss them with them, and talking to them about things like their limitations. So what is a big limitation for many companies? What is a big limitation that I discussed that I have this morning? My husband says that money does not grow on trees. I say maybe he should get another job. Exactly, yeah, budget. What's another one? People, yeah. So resources. What's one other one? Time, right? Yes, technology, definitely. I was thinking those kind of big three, but technology. There's skills, right? So when we're having this conversation with whoever our customer is, whoever our client is, and we're trying to help them define what their solutions are going to look like and what we're going to present them with, we need to start thinking about what our boundaries are. What things are going to limit us. There's a section where you list out some different things that kind of affect how your project will happen. And there's a C word I'm thinking of. Constraints, right? So we could have constraints, and we need to understand those. We need to see what are they interested in ways that they want to adapt. So maybe they're not technologically savvy. So we got to think about what these limitations are and what the areas that the client is kind of interested in when we're coming up with our ideas. Okay, so when we're meeting this week, again, we're asking a lot of questions. We can start kind of throwing things at the board. Next week, when we're defining our solution more, we're gonna get more robust on these things. But what we're gonna come at the end of this really is 3 kind of opportunities that we see for the business, and these ideation maps, which are all the kind of ideas or concepts that we see that go into them. Okay. So when we talk today, think of me and my problem, and we'll kind of walk through it that way. So me as an instructor in this new hybrid world, and our friend Steve over there. Steve, say hi.
Hi.
Is the extreme user. So I am your run-of-the-mill instructor, right? Who's going to go online, and I will think about your ideas and kind of blend to a solution, and I can probably fit what most of the market is looking for. Steve, on the other hand, is our extreme user who has very strong opinions and needs on what his demands are going to be. I think even how we're looking to teach just in general is different, right? I will probably like to be more hybrid in trying to work with both in class and at home, because I have a need to see and be in front of people. Steve is much more technologically savvy than me, might have a PhD and stuff related to that. So he's much more comfortable being more online, and he's gonna probably want more online tools or online focus or ways to do things that way, okay? Okay, so where are we? We've understood, like I said, we've understood our client, we've understood our end users, and now we're gonna try and figure out what these opportunities are we're gonna exploit and the ways we're gonna exploit them. Remember that when we're coming out with these things, as I said, the defining of the problem in Design Think is not, it is defining the problem, but we're calling it other things. So you'll see it, the problem you're seeking to solve, they call it point of view, so the area that you're going to take focus on, or as I said, the opportunities. In the SAP world, you'll see a sentence where they say, how can we? And it's, how can we better whatever? better technology, let's say, as opposed to saying our problem is our technology is weak. So we're changing it into kind of an opportunity statement. We're going to go and we're going to come up with this list of ideas and concepts that facilitate that solution that we can talk to the client about. And then you'll start to further refine that to make what is going to be the solution you're presenting and some type of prototype related to that. So how do we do this? We need to come up with a list of identified problems. Like I said, with your client, I want you to kind of go into it with some ideas, talk through them with them to see, are those really what they're thinking? And then we're going to start to flesh out the details of those. So with that problem, how do we solve that? And if we were working on this longer term, let's say this was, a long-term project for you, or you were seeking to get kind of that fully fleshed out solution and understand if it was good, you would then start taking it actually to your customer base, to focus groups and things like that, and use tools, say like Discord, to have those conversations with them to say, are these concepts and are these ideas what you as the user is seeking out in a solution, or what you would be interested in, or what you would be willing to pay for? There's another term when we're talking project management where we put things on something that isn't necessarily adding value to the customer. It's not what they're willing to pay more for. Does anyone know what those are called? What that's called? We add extra stuff, but it's not something that the customer is actually going to willing to pay extra for. Gold what? So we call it gold plating, right? Like you're kind of like, you're adding to the solution, but you're not adding anything that's really adding a lot of value. So we don't want to necessarily gold plate what we're offering, because nobody's going to pay extra for that, but it's going to cost us more in time and effort and energy that we could put into other things. Okay? So we want to understand, what are the ideas that we step to the board, that we put up there, that we've set as concepts that should go into our solution, that really add value to the customer, and then the ones that they're going to be like, it was nice that you painted it blue, but I would have taken it as just a wood box if that was the case. So that's why we would do focus groups. We want to kind of flesh out those ideas, make sure we are heading in the right direction with what our solution is to the problem, and it's something that's viable and people are willing to pay for. The other thing is, we talked about money as a constraint. If you come up with a solution to a problem and it's, say, $10,000, but the demographic you're reaching is, say, I don't know, 18 to 25, and it's not, it's a solution to them being able to use a website. Are they really going to be willing to pay $10,000 for it? No, right? Is Bob going to be willing to put out $1 million advertising campaign for a product that, if he's only making $100,000 in revenue a year? Right? So we have to see what our constraints are. We have to understand our budgets. We have to understand the limitations of the person's technology and what they're comfortable with. So when we build up these solutions and have these ideas, that they solve the problem the way that our customers want it solved. So it's good for the partner we're looking at, and also something that the partner is willing to support. I think with you guys in the first week, I talked about the example of if I was making a wallet for somebody, and they say they want it high end and they want it fancy, and I say I'm gonna make them a leather wallet, and then I find out they're vegan, right? Probably missed the point on something. So that's why, when we talk about ideating and low fidelity prototyping in the future, we think about those concepts, because if I think that my market is this specific group, but I forgot the fact that a lot of them are wander wallets. A lot of them are conscious of sustainability and animal rights and all those things. They are not going to buy my product, right? And so if I just go to market and make 1 million of them, what's going to happen to me? So I'm probably going to go bankrupt, right? Probably going to be out a lot of money trying to figure out what I'm going to do with all these wallets that nobody's going to buy. So we ideate and we present those solutions to people, or those concepts, so that when we build the actual solution, we're building a solution that suits our situation and that we're pretty confident in going to market with. Okay, so I grabbed some stuff from IDEO, and one of them was, how do we do these point of view statements or these opportunity statements? And so looking at it in a very simplistic way of what can we present to our end user in the end, blank needs to blank because of this. So in this case, me as your instructor, what is my need that you're going to solve, and why is that a need? Can somebody give me an example? And you guys can feel free to unmute yourself. There's only 47 of us in here. 3 of them is us guys. What is an example of my need, and why do I need it? What are you seeing as an opportunity that you could give me that would start to help solve my problem, or something that you think could be created to help with it? So yes, teaching is a need because it helps you learn. But if my problem, or what I've talked to you about as my pain points, is the fact that I have to go to a hybrid teaching session and I don't know how to manage the room, or I don't know what kind of materials suit that, all the things you've experienced in your classes that your instructors are going through. So you know that I'm your user you're talking about. What is my need, and why do I need it? Some tech, right? So my need is technology that does what? Maybe it makes you engage with me. Maybe it randomly pulls one of you up on the screen. I could be. I will tell you, I'm not a vegan. You need to know if we're listening. Exactly. My need to feel like you're participating, right? So we're talking about this need of like polls and Padlet and things like that. But maybe I need something that's really easy to flip through, because even something to manage when you talk about how you guys are listening. We've got this chat on the side, and it's great for me because I have Steve here and June here, but I might not always have people there to monitor that. So how do I manage a room? How do I understand what's going on when I'm trying to teach you this way, right? What kind of tools could be there to alert me? Okay. So for your client, you're going to come up with these kind of point of view statements. But I want to hear from you, and please take yourselves off mute. What are some ideas that you could exploit and potentially think of business solutions for somebody that's doing online teaching? What are you going to solve, right? So we understand what their pain points are. We understand what they want to gain out of something, but what is the, like, we're talking point of view, we're calling it problem. I'm saying, so when I say exploit, I'm saying take the problem, turn it into an opportunity. That's kind of my term of exploit. Steve, is that a good descriptive way? Would you describe it some other way?
I think that's fine. You know where the pain is, so what can you do to fix it?
Yeah, so you understand what my pain points are now. So what are you doing to fix it? What are your opportunities to fix it?
Maybe a quick run through of different technologies available on the market. They'll help.
So your opportunity could be creating a tool, if that was for me, that integrates tools on the market, right? So I can see that. Maybe there's an AI out there. So my pain point is not knowing what's going on, in the background. Maybe there's an AI out there that can alert me somehow, so I'm not having to be drawn to a chat box. Steve, being someone who doesn't want to teach in person per se at the school and wants to stay online, what could you provide him? You know what I want? Because you guys are talking much, so we're just gonna. I have bring you my favorite toy. It's in my office. Can you see what's in my office? Now you can see my bike. It is actually in my office because it's like my favorite thing in life. I want a way to power my laptop that's in, when I'm working in Steve's garage with no power, by physically cycling on my bike. Can you turn my power from my bike, the watts I make on it, into the energy to power Steve's office for him so he can stay out there? But that, you know what, like when we're talking off the wall solutions, and I'm going to say there's a couple kinds of solutions. Let me get to that. I'm going to pull up that slide. So there's kind of like these 4 categories of ideas you're going to come up with. Most rational. So what are you going to get from me, right? You're going to get, as a base solution, you're probably going to get me a robust, you're going to present me with your robust platform, right? And whether that's an integrated platform, because there's actually there are tools out there now that are integrated, so you can use you can use these platforms and everything else is built into them. So things like we're using Miro, or I'm using the other tool in my other class that I just got, HubSpot, in my other class, and it integrates them all right into it. So instead of me having to share my screen with you all the time and figure out what window is at the bottom and where I'm going, I click, like for instance, the poll feature is integrated. It integrates all those things. So you might present to somebody who doesn't know those things exist, that kind of solution, right, as a platform. Delightful. What is a delightful solution? A delightful, or darling, they call them here. Kind of like they're the nice things, the niceties, the things to have in your ideas that you're putting in there that suit the customer's needs. And then you have you kind of have this long shot. Anybody know what a long shot idea would be when we're presenting ideas to the as part of our solution?
The one that has a slight possibility of happening, the one with the best outcomes, and the one with the least amount of drawbacks, but the one with the less amount of possibility of happening.
Right? Like you have, exactly, yeah, Mackenzie. Like all those concepts are the kind of the four thoughts you're thinking of. But sometimes a long shot is something you got to throw out there as an idea to somebody, because they'll be like, hey, yeah, I never thought of that. And maybe it's not what I'm going to do today, but down the road, that's really what I should work towards. Right? Long shot, probably me getting a whole home studio with, integrated miking systems and every tech tool I'd want. Long shot. But you might present that to somebody like me and say, hey, there's also these 3 teaching grants out there where they want people experimenting with these things. So yeah, it's a long shot idea, but if you're willing to put the effort in, you could literally have these things built for you. Okay. So for your clients, you're gonna, I have Mitch, and give me an example of one thing that you could see as an opportunity you could present to Mitch to solve kind of what he has going on as his pain points or what he's trying to gain. What would be one idea based on what he talked about, as where his business is going, as what his pain points are, as what his gains are? We know who his customers he's trying to attract are and what his goals are. What would be something that is his problem or the opportunity that you would be seeking to solve for him? An opportunity for him. An opportunity for him would be monetizing in some way, right?
Yeah.
So you might say monetization through partnership, right?
Yes.
Is the opportunity that you're going to seek out. So for those that don't know what Mitch's product is or don't remember from the original presentations, Mitch is a company called How to VR, and his company they're running basically a website for people who are essentially non-tech people, not the Steves of the world where VR and things would be in his comfort zone, but somebody probably more like June or I, where we saw that it was cool. The cost of VR has come really far down. Maybe for me, my kids are doing it, so I want to know what's going on and how it works. But I don't have the technical knowledge to just be like, hey, what do I do with virtual reality technology? So somebody like that would go to his website and they have explanations on what kind of games you can play. So apparently it's not all just first player kind of shooter games, but I might be able to do bowling, or the Wii related games that I would have played on Wii, but now I can do them in VR. So me as a consumer who's not interested in like being like a serious gamer has this option. But Mitch's problem is, so Mackenzie or somebody, what is Mitch's problem?
He has problems keeping people in his website. Maybe like a long shot solution, like a crazy solution would be if Facebook offers to buy him and implement him within their website. The most rational idea maybe like the implementation of a more dynamic website with more links to more of his articles, so people get more engaged. The most delightful one would probably be a big community with a lot of merchandise that could be sellable, which he seems to be really excited about. Yeah, I think those would be
those
my
are
three
the kind of
solutions.
the things. And then when we get to that ideate phase, when we get to this chart that I'll show you, then you kind of break out what those things look like, or the things that you would think would be included in them, or the ideas that you would kind of throw at that solution. So really good there, Mackenzie. Okay, so what is going on with deploy? So I know it's environmentally based and it's kind of an app. What is his pain point or thing that's making him want to be here?
They want for community members to be able to properly communicate with trusted authorities during a crisis like a flood or something.
Okay, so their opportunity, is, when we're looking at that, is that it's not happening as a solution, is community engagement as a potential thing. Okay, so your opportunity thing you're talking about is kind of this community engagement piece. What would be a long shot idea for something that of an opportunity in a way that would help solve these problems for Nick? What would be something that might
This is where it gets dicey. Kind of where it gets a bit tricky. Because Nick has... Sorry, so I was just saying that Nick kind of has a basic idea, and mostly what he wants us to do is more to deal with how exactly would the citizen or community person report, and how we're going to pretty much be handling those data, like the customer client side screens, and also a way to pretty much process it quickly. So he's kind of he has the main idea all fleshed out.
So what is the long shot way to make that happen? What would be something that would be like a dream that would make it so easy?
A dream would be, I guess, some sort of AI that automatically recognizes that, okay, this report is a lot more is a lot more urgent compared to another report, and is able to tell that to the trusted authority. That's what I think would be a long shot idea. Benjamin can go ahead.
What would be a rational opportunity that you could make?
I was gonna say maybe a point system for people who help with the data.
Okay, so your opportunity that you're seeing, because you're seeing what his problem is, your opportunity would be creating a point system for the data, which helps to identify how good the solution is, right? Or how pertinent the information is. So that would be like a very rational one, because it could kind of be built in, that you probably wouldn't let the user see what the point system is, but in the background you're asking questions and it's building up a tally of those factors. Right? So, but a rational solution that you're coming up with is this point system that makes a lot of sense. It's in the background and it's rational for multiple reasons when you're thinking about it, because it is fairly easy to do. And also because you're backing it into questions and the user doesn't know what necessarily those questions are doing to the point system, they're not going to exploit the system, right? Because if it was a point system, for instance, sometimes you do surveys, but it tells you get 2 points for this answer and 3 and 5 and whatever. And if you know what you want your end goal to be, what will people do with their answers?
Whatever gets them the most points.
Right. So we want to avoid that. So we're trying to build a rational system, but really that's a really good one. So when you're talking about opportunity to exploit for Nick's problem, that would be great. And then you would break out for your ideas all the concepts that you think would go into that, or all the things that you think could be included in that kind of solution. Some of them are going to be things that, he says, no way, doesn't make sense to me, I'm not interested in. Some of them will be, oh, I didn't think of that, right? So you could talk about what those points were, or the categories, or the way it feeds into it, or how you would build that up. Little concepts in your idea stage help you to build up that solution when you get there, of these are the things I want to include, and these are the things that I'm going to put on the back burner because they're not interesting, or they're not interesting for the client. Or they're gold-plated factors, they're not going to add any value to the consumer, and they're not adding any value to the client because, okay, so this is where we're going, right? Is where we're thinking, okay, what's our opportunity? How can we help fix whatever this pain point is in a way that we're providing a solution? We don't have to solve for everything. We can solve for a specific area, right? And we don't all have to solve the same way. So my expectation is the 3 solutions that you end up giving your client with the ideas that go with them that you're going to show them on the charts once as your assignment for next week, they should all be different from all of you. You know, some of them might have the same general concepts. Some of them might be stuff like we just talked about, like this scaling system. But what that scaling system looks like to you, or what you're doing for it, could be different than Mackenzie, who for some reason just left the room. It better be because he's dropping me off a coffee. It doesn't have to be the same, right? And why doesn't it have to be the same? What is so different about all of you in the room? Different people, different personalities, but what else? There was 2 course codes for this, and that's a hint.
Different backgrounds?
Different educational backgrounds, different skill sets even in the room, right? Different ideation, different abilities. This is what is so awesome about design think. This is what is so awesome about you. This is what's so awesome when Steve and I get together, because we see things so differently, right? My solution to something, even like when Steve and I talk about him having his board last week and me still not having a board as I look around my room, is that we have a different skill set. I want a finished product that's just going to roll into my office from California and work and have all the fancy features and look nice, because I probably am not going to go to Home Depot and figure out how to get the Raspberry Pi to make all those things happen, right? So whatever solution I'm going to give you may be something that's existing in the market. Do I have a MacBook? No, I don't, Mackenzie. But do I want a MacBook? Yes. But what about Steve? How did he get his board together? How did Steve get his board together?
Do you want me to tell you, or are you going to ask, or are you asking?
It's hypothetical, Steve. We don't need the 1,000-page instruction.
Oi! Just get some 2x4s and a bit of plexiglass, and you'll be all right.
All right, right? But what would probably happen to me? I'd have, like, you know, black and blue thumbs, no thumbnails left. Who knows? So how Steve and I are going to solve a problem, or what we're going to present you, is probably going to be different. Me, a more commerce kind of background, and thinking sales related, I would probably be looking for some out of the box solution I could give somebody, maybe something that's more related to what the user interface looks like, because I'm thinking that they're going to need that. Steve might provide you a solution where he physically builds it for you, right? But the nice thing about Steve, I totally didn't hurt Steve's feelings, he's awesome, is that Steve can customize it for you, right? And he can build in the tech you want, because that's his skill set, right? He can probably build in that integration so it Bluetooths to my iPad if the device doesn't come with it.
Sure, I can do that.
I don't even know if Steve actually has a Raspberry Pi on this one. I just know we were talking Raspberry Pi last week.
Okay, I've got two. Well, 2 Picos actually.
Okay.
Why did I use them? Because they cost $5 each.
Yeah, right. When I started teaching at Ontario Tech, you know what I thought Raspberry Pi was? Somebody told me they were sending me 2 Raspberry Pi in the mail. Yeah, I thought I was going to get something to eat, and then I got these things that I had no idea what I was going to do with them. That's why I have you guys, right? So we have a different skill set. We can solve what we see as the same problem or the same pain point in different ways. And maybe they're not going to take all of our solutions, but they might take pieces of them down the road in their business based on what they need. Okay? All right, so we've got kind of these 4 concepts of ideas. We've talked about that we're taking whatever we saw as their pain points or what they're looking at as gains, and we're making those the opportunities. So we've talked about deploy a little bit. We've talked about my friend Mitch in California, overlooking the beach while I'm sitting here and it's 2 degrees, to create his platform, which then allows him to replicate the things. And knowing that I've talked to Christian before, another thing for him, and he won't take this as we've had these personal conversations, is literally time management in general. So maybe a solution to him is something like presenting a oh my goodness, I want to call them online personal assistants, but like these distance personal assistants. So maybe he can't afford to actually have a personal assistant come and sit in his office every day. A TA, you know, this TA, she just wants to make sure that we know she's important over here. But you can get these online personal assistants, right? And so they work for you and they work for somebody else, but they might do 10 hours of work a week for you. Why would somebody want, say, a personal assistant to do stuff for them. What kind of activities would you get a personal assistant to do?
Maybe the basic activities that would not require much complexities to them.
Right, take stuff off your plate that isn't value add. I always come back to analogies about supply chain, right? A good company has a good supply chain. Why do they have a good supply chain?
Makes them the biggest company in the world.
Whoa!
It makes it a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. So why doesn't General Motors make every widget on a car?
Because it'd be really annoying for them to do so.
And you know what?
Customers would want.
You get somebody who is really good at a certain thing, and you send that portion to them. But what does a supply chain partner do for a business? They have a specialty, right? And then if they have that specialty, they can do those things quicker. They can do things more cost effectively because that's what they do. And they allow the main partner, whoever it is, the General Motors of the thing, right, to do what they do best. Again, so I came from the last company I was at was a company called Safran. Anybody know what Safran does?
Aerospace?
Yes, they are. So they don't do tier 1. They don't actually make planes. Almost any
Landing gear?
I made landing gear up in Ajax. Yeah, that's exactly what I did. In general, does almost everything. They make engines. They they do wing and body components. They do landing gear. They do inside stuff. So they do all these pieces, and they have different areas that are specialty in them, and then they all go into the Boeing or the Airbus. My near and dear to my heart, the 787 Dreamliner. But when you do, for somebody like Career Niche, going back to Christian, who has difficulty in some cases time managing because he has so many things on the go, if he had a personal assistant who was really good at scheduling appointments for him, at putting his presentations together or at finding resources for him, they're going to add value to him that allows him to focus on what's good for him and maybe put his coaching stuff together if he wants it to stay personal and not be a process where he's having other people train. That personal assistant is going to take care of all sorts of stuff that they are better at, that they're probably going to do faster. They're going to do more cost effectively, and allow him to focus on the other stuff. So a delightful solution for him quite possibly could be this idea of a virtual assistant. Okay. So how can we show these ideas to our clients? How can we present this? I put in a couple of different Miro templates here that you could use. This one was called the random words one. So in this one, I would put what my solution was in the middle and all the ideas that go with it on the outside. Okay. You might choose then when we're talking about these different concepts of ideas. So the long shot ones, the rational ones, you might choose to color code them based on what category those fit in. But don't just take something off the board because it's a long shot idea or because your teammates don't necessarily agree with it. What did we talk about as something that makes value to design thinking in the other sections? That we should be what? Right? We're going to be non-judgmental. And we're going to say that just because it's not our idea or we didn't think of it, it doesn't mean that it's wrong, right? And it doesn't mean that the customer might not like it because we're not even all that customer. And we might have picked up different information from the client depending on who we are. So NoQuest, what is one of his pain points or something that a goal of his? And I think they've given you a lot. So you have a lot of ways you can go with the different kind of solutions you're going to offer.
His pain point is he wants to engage more users in his website.
So his pain point is that he's not getting users to his website. Okay.
Yes.
So your opportunity, we'll go, I love Root Rescue. We'll go to Bob in a minute, but so your opportunity with NoQuest could be, has to be something to do with exploiting how he's going to get more people to his website for that one, right?
Yes.
So his user interface is unclear. So so your solution could be an improved user interface. Now, when we're thinking of ideas that are going to go into an improved user interface, what kinds of concepts would go into an improved user interface? So that's a very rational solution, providing him with an improved user interface. What kind of ideas could go into that?
I have in my mind that his website has to be a bit more interesting so that more user will get engaged.
So when we're talking user interface on that, what would be something that you would do to a user interface or do to the website page that you're seeing when you enter that would make it more engaging?
Personalization.
Some kind of personalization, yeah. What about like the colors, right? Color theory is a big thing. So you might talk about, if you understand who his general consumer is there a color theory that suits that best? Color theory is really important for a lot of things. It evokes emotion. Anybody know what color a doctor's office is not supposed to be? What color it's not supposed to be? Red. Yeah, right? Because what kind of emotion gets evoked with red?
Anger,
right? Yeah. And what color? You've got. I see Miriam putting blue here. Blue or green is usually what they suggest for it, right? Because they're the calming colors, kind of those things. So when we're talking about improving somebody's user interface, literally talking about what the colors could be is a concept that's there. If it's really clunky, what is clunky about it? Why is it clunky? June's gonna put, apparently the prisons have pink walls. I did not know that.
No, it's actually a real thing. There's quite a few prisons that use color therapy where they have pink to remind them of the womb. They're literally going that far. And to keep prisoners calm, they use baby colors on the walls. Pink, blue, light yellow. It's calming instead of gray or white.
Yeah, and actually, believe it or not, the reason that I pick bluey, purpley backgrounds for my slides is related to color theory. Some of it too becomes your color theory and how you see the world in what I present. But color theory is a big thing. So ideating and bringing up the discussion of colors would be a good concept. Is it too complex, right? Is there too many boxes on the screen they can't follow to know where they're going? Is it not offering them something? Like, do they need to have incentive in their user interface? Steve, what else is really important in a user interface? You're good at this.
I forgot where my mute button was for a second. Do you see? There's a good example. Things in the user interface that are important, not just colors, placement of things, size of things that are obvious from the point of view of icons, whatever. Let's see.
It's so smart that you said that, Steve, because like when I'm looking at Google Meet right now, it drives me
it's nuts.
Insane. Some people don't like Kaltura, but there's certain things I like about Kaltura. So I can see in Kaltura what I'm presenting to you. I don't have to ask that question of, can everybody see this? Because my window on my screen actually shows you what you're seeing. Google Meet, again, when I'm presenting to you guys, do you know where my share button or where my, the stuff that reminds me I'm sharing is? Right on top of my mic and my camera. So I can't, if I want to mute because you guys are talking or I want to turn a camera on or off or something, I actually have to move my buttons on my screen. I can't see, I can only see so many icons, right? And it shrinks my screen so much. I don't have, there's not even like really nice features to suit out the information on the screen. So that would be an example of what a user interface, what is pain pointing me on my user interface and I would want fixed. Anything else you want to add to that, Steve, about a user interface?
Oh gosh, no. I think it's good. Really, when we're talking about user interface, Rohan had a really good point there. The accessibility thing is really important, and it's not just about accessibility for people with different abilities, but people with different ideas for how things work as well. So one of the best things that you can do with the user interface, which you see in mobile phones and stuff, is allow customizability, right? So you don't want that microphone or whatever it is thing to be there in that place. It would be good to be able to shift it somewhere else. Or, I mean, I know Morden, for example, has 3 screens because he needs to see what other people are seeing, and he needs to see when things are working and when things aren't working. But being able to do that on one screen would be really cool, right?
Yeah. Okay, and then the other one that we talked about was, so June says, keep in mind they don't have just one problem. That's it, right? We have different things we can exploit. So we're talking about some things here. We're talking about certain ways you can exploit them, but most of your clients, what was so great about them is they're so open to anything you see as kind of problems within their business or opportunities within their business that you can change and modify or make solutions on. And they're open to you solving it in different ways. When we presented this course and we presented the fact that we have gaming students in here, we have networking and IT security students in here, we have all of the commerce functions, and everybody's going to see something differently, so they might be presented with different ideas. And the idea of this course in a 6-week format is not that you're actually going to give them a solved product, but that you're going to provide solutions that they could then use those concepts to further down the road. Okay, so one way I said you could present this to them would be something like this random words, where you'll have 3 of these, because I want you guys thinking of 3 different kind of solutions or opportunities you're going to could exploit for your client, and then what you do with the colors. As long as you're explaining it, I'm happy. If you want to use the colors to say that these are, the different priority levels of ideas that we would want to put in it, because what oftentimes is the when a product comes to market, or on the tech world, when you're putting something together, what is that first level product called?
Prototype?
I'm thinking of something else. Has the initials MVP. MVP.
Minimum viable product.
Exactly, right? So, these are the ideas that would go to a minimum viable product. These are the ideas that would be extra nice to haves. And these are kind of like your long-term ideas. You could do something like that when you're putting ideas here. But it doesn't just have to be one in each of these areas. You could have a whole bunch, because you're going to discuss with them the different ways they could go about it. And they're going to tell you, yeah, I like these ideas. No, I don't like those. And then when you build your final solution, you're building in those ones that they want. But whatever you give somebody on a first line basis, that's at least what you're trying to get is minimum viable product. Okay. So you could do the random word one. Just explain why you choose to do it the way you chose to do it. No idea, like June said, no idea is bad at this point, except June's ideas. No, June's ideas are usually pretty good. Okay, you could do brain writing. So you could have what your idea is, and then whether you guys choose to do it on this like kind of post-it note format, and yellow is one kind of ideas that go into it. The pink or the purple or the green or whatever colors you choose are the others. And that's how you could assign the ideas and cluster them somehow that way. I don't care really how you present it, as long as it makes sense and it works for your client. What do you know about your client? How do they like to see information? Somebody was talking about Bob at this point. Bob and his kind of expectation is very different, I would say, than Nick, let's say, because I think Bob wants something that's a very kind of logical solution by the end of this that he could then give to somebody to say, this is what I want you to kind of implement. Nick might be a little bit more open to specific ideas that could be integrated later as smaller pieces of the puzzle. Christian and Mitch, both kind of guys that have lots of ideas and lots of thoughts of where they're going to go in the future, and might be open to bigger different concepts in different directions. So play to your audience and how you present the information in a way that you think that they would respond to the best. Again, design thinking, we're coming up with ideas that are creative, that are focused on our customer, we should be presenting them in a way that meets their needs. So writing, another one that's there. This whole idea of the concept map. Now, I'm a person, concept maps are my thing. Another one that I like to use for things sometimes is like fish diagrams. So here's my objective of what I'm getting to, and kind of here's all the different pieces of the puzzle. I might break them down smaller and smaller, or the minimum viable product ones, and then these would be kind of ideas or things that you could include, and then after that, these would be things. You can format this in any way that works for you on how you're putting these ideas together, any way that works for you as a team. Be creative in your colors. I noticed in the last presentation, some of you were like awesome and went your own way with it, and some of you stayed very much to the base template. One of the best ones I saw even integrated existing visuals from their current product to show where the pain point was. So now you could show on your ideation phase examples of maybe where something would go on the website, or what you would, or where this would change. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be here and cluttered up. What I think what that group did was they kind of faded to that portion of it and then came back to their main diagram. So they actually showed us some of the pain points on that people were experiencing in Mitch's stuff. So be creative in your presentation. June said, same with Root Rescue. You don't have to do exactly what the example is shown. Be creative. Yeah. Be open to how you want to present things. It doesn't have to, if you guys, even stuff just like colors, like, so when they're seeing them, it's not for exactly the same template, all the same things. I just said, we're all different. Our clients are all different. The solutions we're providing are all different. How you present it can be what grasps you, can be a skill set, you know, or a concept here of a map or something that you want to get a skill in because you think it's helpful down the road and you'd use it for something else. Okay, so we've talked about kind of exploiting the ideas and turning those into the opportunities. We've talked about then taking that and ideating and putting the pieces of the puzzle there and the concepts we're thinking of. So in your sessions, talk to them about kind of moving towards these things. Talk to them about what their constraints are, what their adaptability is. When you're thinking about things that you're going to put on the sheet, I wouldn't put for Mitch, I would say, even as a long shot idea, it would be completely off to say that he's going to create his own headset, right? Anybody think that Mitch would want to create his own headset? No, right? So we wouldn't be putting things like that on the list. No. For Christian, is he going to, what is something Christian has told you he's limited by? Is he techie? I don't know. Is Christian techie?
No.
No. Okay. Right. So whatever solution you're going to give him is probably not going to be him coding a system himself, right? So you want to really go kind of through this consideration phase in those meetings so that you can come and define yourself to the 3 opportunities you're looking at as solutions and the ideas that go with them. And what's going to come out of that at the end is we're going to present those to the client. You know, they're going to grade them on that rubric scale that we've been using. And they're going to tell you what solution what idea that you came up with that you said could be something you could exploit is going to be the solution you're going to feed into for your next phase. Okay. So you're going to give them the 3 concepts. They're going to say, I want to see for the end of this, this is the one as you present me as your final solution. Does that make sense? Yeah, so June says, don't layer your skills on top of theirs. Like, your skills are the things that, you know, you're able to do and present in ways of they might be able to bring that in. But if he's not techie, you're not going to have him program something himself. You're going to have whatever kind of solution you give. It's going to have to be something that pre-exists. Okay. Maybe it's moving something to like Mitch's stuff. I don't know, as an opportunity, looking at it as an app, because if I'm doing my VR and I'm using my computer for that, do I want an app where I can have that on the side, right? Maybe that's his opportunity, and people pay to have the app format. Who knows? I don't know. You guys are all there. In deploy solutions, does he make some kind of agreement with some group that makes his app the QR code on their website, or he makes a QR code which is agreed to by public spaces to be on their sign, right? So then it's easy access that they're going to give that. They're for sure going to send him the information because they see on their sign, oh, if anything's wrong, click this QR code, right? How do you become that? What does that solution look like? I don't even know if that is a possible solution for his product in any way, shape, or form. So don't take that as an answer. I've not said it in his meetings. But really what you should be doing in this next session is kind of coming through the considerations of this is what we're thinking or what we're going to exploit in our opportunities, but we need to know the limitations, the levels that we should be building it up, what are they trying to do? Is there a connecting factor? Other pieces we need to consider? We in a capstone, and it was totally not the student's fault. It was the organization and the faculty member actually supporting, didn't talk about the coding language that was going into it. Do you know what happened then when they built the prototype, when the students built the prototype? What happens if you're building a prototype that needs to feed into another system and you don't talk about the coding language?
It's not compatible?
It wasn't compatible and they had to recode the whole thing, right? So is there any other factors, outside pieces that you need to be considering in your ideas for your solution? Okay. No, we're not really grading your ideas in terms of what, like we said, we are open to ideas, we are open to concepts, we are open to the long shot ideas. I mean, Brilliant Catalyst, as an example, has a long shot competition, and my other TA, Mackenzie Collins, actually won that with her concept of to do with recycled materials and clothing that you make from coffee cups, right? So sometimes there's long-term viability in an idea. It's just not the thing that we're going to do today. So there's no reason to not put that on there. It might be something that they're like, yeah, in your solution today, I'm not going to take it, but that's a concept that I never thought of before, and I should think about it in my long-term planning. Okay. Recognizing patterns in what they've done before. So maybe that directs the ideas of what they're going to be looking for in the future. And be curious, ask questions about where they're trying to go, about how they're expecting to get there. Any interesting facts that if you built it in that you could see is going to add value because you know something about that market. That you've done some outside research too, right? Most of these products should have what? Commerce guys. What do you look at? You look at your your competitors, right? Yes, thank you, Rohan. Your competitors, right? You also might be looking at what else exists. So we have competitors. We also have something else that starts with COMP, that work together.
Competition? Yeah.
Complementary?
Complementers. You've got complementers too, right? Other things that exist in the market that are, complement yours. Maybe he hasn't thought about them, that they're maybe not a competitor, but if you and this complementer got together, now you're a stronger force. Okay. So think about those things during your sessions. Be asking questions that help you get to what you're thinking are your opportunities you're going to exploit, and then what you could put in as your ideas to go with them. So we're not, if the idea seems far-fetched to us, we're not going to judge that. We just want to see that there's a breadth in your ideas, that you've thought it through, that if you're doing something like saying that it's going to be a newly developed user interface, that all the ideas and concepts that go with that newly developed user interface are thought about, or at least on some level are thought about, so that colors are thought about, so that how it's presented is thought about, so maybe how it's integrating with the rest of their system if there's a factor there. Okay, think through your ideas, and that's kind of why I liked this concept mapped idea, because it's kind of like, okay, so here's what our objective is, and here's what it's going to include, and here's what you definitely need, and then here's some other pieces and other pieces that kind of it fishtails out right into things that go with things. And I would say Steve, would you say kind of a minimum of 10 ideas per solution that are things that would go into it? Is that a good number?
10 is good.
Okay.
Sorry, can you reiterate just one time how many problems, like exactly what they're submitting? Solutions?
So after this week, after you meet with your client, you're gonna have 3 solutions that you're presenting, so 3 objectives, and then 10 ideas that would go into each of these solutions. And they don't all have to be, all those ideas don't have to go exactly together, because you might take one and they might take one and not the other, right? But they're all things that potentially could. But think about their viability, think about their constraints when you're adding these things in, think about their level of comfort, think about what their interests are, think about who the demographic is that's going to use it. Because when we talk user interface, if non-techie people are going to use it, for instance, we did a project last semester with the older adult population. We kept the user interface for what they were seeing very, very, very simplistic, because they're not necessarily comfortable with technology. So it was like 3 big buttons of where they go, and it took them exactly where they needed to go. Not a lot of options, because that's what they're comfortable with, right? But if you're using a younger demographic who's more techie because they've grown up with it, you could have more features in it. And if we're talking about exploiting different markets as our objective, you could have 2 different markets what you're putting into their interface are totally different. How could a website approach that? How could a website approach having maybe a slightly different user interface for different groups? And Bob's would be an example of this, because not even just different groups, like different demographics or age groups, but who are Bob's customers? Who would be coming to his website? Who would be coming to his website? Who might come to Bob's website? Okay, but so I'm thinking there's like kind of 2 main groups. For those that have Root Rescue, there's kind of 2 very large main groups. Contractors, or maybe like garden centers, right? Looking to increase their product. And I'll give you a hint. He keeps saying that I'm one of them. Not necessarily housewives, right? But the moms, right? Or the general, the garden center consumer. So for his user interface or what's presented to them, it might be what is your market you're looking for? Are you, the consumer? Are you a garden center, or are you a contractor, or say like large organization looking to buy our product for use, right? Because what the interface is and the information that's going to be presented is going to be different depending on those things. So if you can click them right off the hop, what presents in front of them could be different. Okay. So we said you could do any of those kinds of concepts. If there's another one that you see there that works for you guys, and you're explaining your 3 objectives and the ideas that you're linking to them, Steve and I are open to your creativity. Okay. Just consider what the client is talking about, consider what the market is that they're supporting, and you can get ideas about what ideas are the best by, I think I've talked about this concept before. What do we do what are we gaining or looking at when we're looking at the features that are successful from other competitors or other businesses? Does anybody know what that's called? The word starts with a B. I will give you that. We're looking at other people's features that are successful, and we're going to do this with them. So we're going to that's it, Rohan. We're going to benchmark, right? So if you want those A+ grades where they see that you are thinking outside of the box and really using your design think mindset, go back to some research and see and ask questions to them too. Like, what do you see as your competitors? And look at their information. I know someone will say, I don't necessarily see competitors, but it doesn't even have to be always a competitor. But if you're a website providing a service, there's probably another website providing some kind of service, and there's going to be features on their website that are really good that bring you in, right? Even there's websites you as a person go to all the time that have certain features or offerings, and you'll always go there. I always look at like the search engine world. There are people in this world that, I mean, Google seems to be the thing that's in front of everybody, but does anybody use anything else? And is there a reason? DuckDuckGo, privacy.
Yeah, that's definitely my fault. Sorry.
What?
DuckDuckGo.
Oh, is that your thing?
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I used when I was when I was a wee student? Anybody want to guess what my browser was?
Bing.
No.
Ask Jeeves. Ask Jeeves.
No, Alta Vista was like mine of choice back.
Alta Vista was the thing.
Yeah, it was the thing. It's like I was telling somebody the other day, we talk about where technology has gone in terms of social media. Way back when I was a youngin', does anybody know what ICQ was?
If they know what ICQ is, then they'll know the sound.
Anybody know what ICQ? This is how, like, if you understand ICQ, you'll know how much better our lives have gotten with the way things have gone in terms of.
I'm assuming some sort of internet chat or messenger sort of thing.
Yeah, but even more, it was like the most basic when you talk about user interface that could have existed. Like, it was pre-MSN Messenger. You had a number. And then if you wanted to find somebody, you needed to know this, like, 12-digit number. Yeah, and, like, one way you could find somebody on it was just to, like, randomly search the internet for them and hit a button.
So you get literally random people messaging
you. Would get, like, random people. Yeah, like, literally numbers. A lot of it was random. And look at where our user interfaces have gone now in terms of how we communicate and what we can do.
It's Amanda. It's the precursor to Omegle.
I don't even know what Omegle is.
Isn't and you guys can tell me, but isn't Omegle the one where you just two people on video, you randomly just start a chat with some stranger on the internet?
Yes. It doesn't need to be video, but yeah.
It's the origins of Omegle.
But when you talk about like user interface and going way back in the day, it was literally like there was like a random box and you clicked it and you could only chat. Back in June and my day, there was no emoticons. There was no phone a friend feature on it. There was no video.
Back in Steve's day, there was no internet.
Back in Steve's day, they tied messages to pigeons and let them fly over to their friend's house.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That to me that way. I'm lucky there's like a pigeon club down the road that it actually shows up. But that when you're thinking about who somebody's benchmarking off of, well, when the next service came up, I bet you they looked at what was there and said, these are the really good features off that one. And then and so I'm going to take those, but this is like building the better, what do they call it? Why is this out of my head? Building a better, there's a saying.
You're going to have to get the context again.
Building a better mousetrap.
Oh, mousetrap. Sorry, yes.
Sorry.
Good game as well, that.
Building a better mousetrap, right? Less complicated, more features as we go along. So think about what exists for your product, and yeah, it might not be the same thing or the same direct market, but there's probably features there that you could look at, or whatever their service is. Like Christian offers a coaching service. How many different coaching services are there out there? You can be coached on pretty much anything nowadays. And if you're cheap like me, you just make Steve coach you in his spare time. But there's so many different coaching services in different ways that it can be worked in, right? So look at what else is out there and how they're expanding their business, and think about what those benchmarked ideas are that Christian could take, and maybe what you see as pain points on theirs that he doesn't want to do, okay? That he could avoid. So June, no, because remember what did I say here? So in design think, you have a problem, and when you flip the word problem, you have a what?
Opportunity.
An opportunity, right? So you're going to have 3 different opportunities per se that you're presenting them, and then all the concepts that go into them. So they should be 3 pretty different opportunities for their business, and then the ideas that go into them that they give you. And then what'll happen when they review them is they'll say, oh, out of the 3 that you presented in your presentation, the one that I want to move forward with is this. So can you please build me up that further prototype solution next week with Steve based on that one? Okay. So concept mapping is one that I like. We've talked about the considerations. If you ever get stuck on any of this when you're thinking, how do I do it when we go back, if you feel like maybe the lecture hasn't gotten you where you need to be, interactive design, where I pulled this list of ideas from, is really good. IDEO is really good. SAP, all have like design thinking modules. If you're trying to figure out how to present your information beyond when we leave this room, beyond maybe asking us a question, all of them have really good free information, high quality information on these specific modules and concepts that can help direct you.